the switch and then I'll leave.
It's on.
I sent you the videos, I sent you two.
Oh, thank you.
I'm sure
This
many people are sitting at their televisions waiting to
Oh,
for the
yeah.
switch to go on.
That's the last couple of meetings my wife's been watching.
I bet there's a lot of candidates taking
What
my
are her
position.
comments about it? I mean, I've never seen one.
Oh, I
so-
can't repeat some of them.
Oh,
We're
No,
on.
she
I
just
think
finds
we're
it
on.
entertaining.
In a bad way.
No, no, not at all. She taped it once, but I couldn't bring myself to watch myself, so. And being over here.
It's bad enough to be here in person, much less to see it.
Yeah.
We are on.
I know.
Okay,
I'm entertaining people.
okay.
I've watched a few meetings, yeah.
We should have a sign-in sheet again.
That's all, there's one on the table.
Okay,
Chair,
good.
second one.
Thank you.
The site and the builder was there at the building.
Oh, really?
Interesting on the inside.
We're waiting for you. We're on already, so.
It's in like really good shape.
Yeah.
You think that
So
it's-
I think now that everyone that I'm expecting is here, I will call the meeting to order of the Littleton Zoning Board of Appeals. It's July 16th, 2015. We're here in room 103 at 37 Shattuck Street, Littleton, Massachusetts, and we have a quorum. So does anybody have any old business, new business, or administrative matters? Was anybody going to report on a committee meeting of any sort? Okay, I have two decisions, one from, well, both from Westford. One of them is a demolition permit on a single-family dwelling, and the other is allow for the construction, probably, of the same single-family dwelling. 8 Pine Road, Westford, and Muriel Drive, Westford. And we get those just because the town is in a butter to the town, not because we have any particular interest in that property. So that's that.
The minutes we're going to do?
I don't have any in my hand, so I'm not prepared for minutes.
Okay,
Were they sent around?
just pulling out my notes.
We have Mr. Farnsworth, Vice Chair, begged off tonight, stating that he wasn't here last week for the beginning of this hearing, and since there were no other hearings scheduled, he didn't feel that he could add anything by coming here tonight. And Mr. Saucier, who was the voting alternate at last meeting for this particular hearing, is not able to come because he has a conflict with his sports obligations. So,
Did you hear about his successes?
no, why don't you?
He is having wonderful successes with the track team. They've won a couple of championships and are doing really quite fabulously.
Oh, that's great.
Excellent.
Staple, I thought it was magic.
I thought you were on vacation.
I am on vacation.
Well, thank you for coming. I almost called you and said, I got the beginning, so I could finish without it, but thank you for coming.
Well, I figured I missed May, so I better come.
And this is, site plan modification.
These are the decisions.
Oh, wow.
Well, we'll talk about them after we open the hearing. We have to wait till 7:30 to open the hearing.
Two more.
Okay.
Everything? Yeah.
Site plan, modification, water stuff. Site plan.
There should be 3.
There should be 4.
Oh, then I'm missing one.
Or what?
Wait, I just,
I passed 4 down. I have 4.
yeah,
I've got-
one
I have
looked like a
4.
duplicate to me,
It does.
so.
Yeah, one of them is,
Here, okay, I
it
got it.
has the same title, but one
Yeah.
is 2 pages and one is 6 pages.
Site plan
It's the
modification.
site plan modification.
Yeah. And one is just 2 pages, and one has the checklist attached.
Okay, so I only have site plan modification.
You should have
Wait,
2 of those.
you said 6 pages?
I have one site plan
got 3.
modification that is 3 pages long.
Well, it's
Okay, so
six,
there's the
front and back
2-pager.
6.
Oh, okay, so where's the 2 pages?
Right here, this is the one that you need
Oh,
now.
okay. And is there anything else I'm supposed to have?
Yeah, setback special permit, I don't think that came your way yet either.
Oh.
So there
You
should
guys
be
are just
4
hogging them over
decisions.
there.
No, I got mixed up, I thought I had a duplicate, so
I
my
have
fault.
3 things.
You
I
should have 4.
things?
2 site plan modifications, a setback special permit, and a water resource district special
I
permit.
don't have the Water Resource District thing.
That went down, so maybe they have an extra one at
You
that
have
end.
Water Resource District things?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so you must have an extra one down there somewhere. Patrick, do you have an extra Water Resource District?
No.
Let's see.
Right there, there's one right there.
Oh, I have that. Or just one of those, hon.
There's 2.
Thank you. I passed them blithely on past me.
So,
Thank
as long as you're here, I have in my car John's resignation that we talked about, and I've forgotten to give it to you all month. And I think we ought to send a letter to the selectmen about filling the vacancy. The shoes are going to be tough to fill.
Oh, well, thank you.
Leave a smaller pair here, would you please?
Yeah, we will miss you, John.
Well, I'm gonna miss you guys. It's been a long run. It's been
Yeah.
very
How many years
enjoyable.
have you been here?
18 years.
Oh, we should have a party.
Oh, well,
We should have a banquet
oh, thank
where you have to do speeches.
Oh, jeez.
I should make you write this decision.
Oh,
This is final.
yeah, right. Oh, I'll write it. You're gonna have to put it on the computer. I used to write them. I handwrote the
I
decisions.
know you
before,
did,
yeah.
I know you did.
Yeah.
I didn't let, never let anyone off the hook.
No, and I didn't mind, but if you kept
I
it
know.
kept it on the computer.
Phil.
Well, who was the lady that was the secretary? Charlotte.
Charlotte Rafferty, oh
yes.
man, she was good.
Oh, yeah, and she used to pick them up. I wrote them, and I think she.
She would
transferred.
bicycle to pick them up.
Yes,
And she didn't use the computer, she would
No.
handwrite minutes and everything,
Yes.
type them, with
Charlotte-
no mistakes, Charlotte
Charlotte.
Rafferty.
Yeah, it was
She would
wonderful.
type the decisions, no mistakes.
Yeah,
I couldn't even, I would go to her house to try to teach her how to use the computer, no way.
no. That was a great group when I first started.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, that's what's funny, this new permitting software we have, you know, as people are coming in, we've been using it since January, but now I'm trying to get the contractors to use it, and I find anyone 40 and under, they're like, great, you know, and because they're all
They're on their phone
technology, you know,
and-
and they're like, what's the link? And everybody over 40, they're like, do I have to do it?
oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm like, no, I'll put them in for you.
I'm one of those over 40 years, I hate technology.
But, you know, some towns, it's just, they just, once they open it up, they're like, this is your only option, and I'm like, you can't do that. And I said, some people don't know how to use a computer, don't want to know how to use a
Right.
computer,
Yeah.
and, you know, you can't
I know.
deny them
No, that's
pulling a
nice.
permit.
Right,
And I said, if the majority of them do it electronically, then,
right.
but.
Do we have any mail besides these 2 decisions? Pass those back then, and you can, you don't keep those, do you?
Just throw them in a folder.
I must think you don't need to keep them because they're easily obtainable and they don't impact us. They're just courtesy notices to the next town. So you can
Good, that opens
save
up
some
a
paper.
file.
Hi.
How's
You brought in the big guns.
how's your husband doing?
Much better.
Good.
Yeah, much better. He's working every day now and he's walking.
That's good.
Good evening. We're holding until 7:30 and we don't have any other business, so.
Unfortunately, no one else on the other side.
That's a terrible thing to say.
Fortunately,
Oh,
fortunately, no one else. I feel like every meeting when we have dead time, I'm talking about long-term town residents that I knew personally that have passed away recently, and that's just so unpleasant.
Well, I know.
well, I can give something positive. My Uncle George, who owns the Gould's Clothing Stores in Acton, Massachusetts, is going to be 99 years old at his next birthday, and he still goes to work in the store every day. He's as alert as he ever was. And if you walk down to the mall, the Gould's Mall, or the Gould's Plaza, and you see that it's neat and clean and tidy,
Yes.
the only person there who picks up trash that blows off is George.
Aw.
That's amazing.
Reminding me,
He's always there every time I go.
He's always there, he loves
they
it.
have a
And
sale going on.
And he conducts a bridge, two-table bridge competition, or contract bridge, every Monday night in the nursing home where he lives, in the assisted living.
That's great.
So he still plays bridge, his mind is still active.
That's what I want to be when
That's
I'm
nice.
99.
Yeah.
We're not here at all.
That bridge is a great game for you, keeps you sharp.
To keep your mind sharp, yeah.
They say it's tremendous.
Yeah. I had my, where's the phone? I shouldn't talk about personal stuff.
You know, it's not your 99th birthday.
It's getting close.
I can do this.
I'm older than you, I think, right? 2 years? 1 year?
One of these is for
65.
Okay.
The other two
Oh,
are
I'm 64.
Okay.
I bet
You
you
were
would.
close,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So you're the
Mabel.
oldest, you're the oldest on the board?
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's after you.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
thanks.
Oh, yeah, jeez.
How old's Mabel?
She's
Mabel's like-
62.
Oh, she's younger.
Yeah.
I didn't bring my phone, so I can't tell you whether that's right or not, and it is.
Oh, I better turn mine off. We have the same glasses again, look at that.
Well, you know, it's because we get them in the same place.
Oh, I think I got them
Job
for
lots.
you.
That is exactly.
Kirby has
Did you-
me.
I have.
Savvy
This
here.
out for-
These are the same
You
ones.
already printed them out. All right,
Are
awesome.
these new ones?
It's the same as the.
They're the same,
Small, all
those ones are just full-size copies
Okay.
that might have had some for.
Is this the same as this?
last meeting.
This one here is a little bit different in that there's one toilet missing inside.
Let's not talk about the application until we
Oops,
open the hearing. Thank you very much. Could you, maybe, do we need to share these? Is that?
He gave me 2 copies.
I don't,
Are they
I
the
don't need
same
one.
basically
I didn't
as
ask
this?
for I didn't ask for
Are these the same as
9
this?
full-size sets.
Except for the noted exception?
So,
Yes.
Okay, does anyone need a full-size copy? I've got mine. I brought mine back.
Here, I didn't have one.
Nothing changed from this.
The rules and regs, I think she wants.
The handout sheet that came with the letter that I handed out last month.
Yeah. This house guidelines?
Yeah. I think that's what she said.
But there's been changes,
No.
I think,
No, I think
No.
those are the same.
The planning board referenced,
different hours.
We better open the hearing before we go too much further.
6, 17. That might be a little change.
Sure. As long as you give me my doodles back.
I will certainly give you yours back.
I think I couldn't find my glasses, so I was drawing them on there in wishful thinking.
Hmm. Minor changes. When you're open, I'll explain the difference on that. It's very, very minimal.
Okay.
Okay, it's 7:30. I'm going to Open the continuation hearing of case number 855A. The petitioner is GPR Inc. On behalf of owner Georgiana Gagnon, request for a special permit pursuant to section 173.7 special permits, 173.25 use regulations, and 173.26A use regulations schedule, parentheses, other principal uses with externally observable attributes similar to uses permitted above, end parentheses, for use of the property for functions, rentals, weddings, dance classes, contra dance, and open mic at 547 Great Road. This is a continuation hearing from last month. We had last month 4 regulars, Jeff, John, Sherry, and Cheryl. And the alternate appointed to vote on this was Mark Saucier, who's unable to attend tonight. But in attendance last month were also Rod Stewart and Patrick Joyce. So I'll go down the line and appoint Rod to be the voting alternate tonight to take over Mark Saucier's position. So we have a 5-member voting board for you. And I'll open it up to the applicant. The way we conduct the hearing is that the applicant will speak first. The board will ask any questions. Then we'll ask abutters and anyone here to comment and ask questions and do our best to be respectful of each other's time. Okay?
Thank you. Good evening. Bruce Ringwald from Goldsmith Press and Ringwald, representing Soaring Hawk Meditation Center in Gia Gagnon. Also with me this evening is Attorney Phil Filiopoulos. And we want to pick up where we left off last time, whereby we had gone through the majority of the presentation. We've gone through the whole presentation. At the last meeting, I had made mention that the applicant, and had given you a letter with the modifications, that the applicant had gone from the original 180 maximum number for an event that was on the original filing down to 120 when they met with the planning board, and then down to 100 for maximum seats of any assembly type function when we met here last month. Since that time, what we have done, and they had removed the idea of having an outdoor tent in the backyard, and we had in the backyard here a large rectangle, and I love it that we have the stuff tonight. Thank you, Shelley. If you could go to the 3rd page, Shelley, thank you. In the back where there's 2 interlocking ovals now, those are walkways around a stone wall and some steps, so that they're kind of 2 terrace gardens. The upper portion will be more of a garden area, the lower portion will be more of a lawn, so that they could hold ceremonies outside without a tent, just some rows of chairs to have the ceremony outside if the weather's nice, and then have the wedding functions, reception and whatnot inside, and not have a tent outside. So the backyard has been made more conducive to outdoor activities, photo sessions for a wedding, actual meditation, outdoor meditation for our other activities on the site, other than the assembly things that we're here talking about this evening. We've taken off the big square and the big level area that a tent could go up on, so that it's not a concern that this is something that we're come back to in the future. She's doing the whole landscaping and everything around, eliminating that cost. One of the big things that was conversation at both the planning board and here was parking. And what we've done here is we've added 10 parking spaces. If you go down Old Great Road past the existing driveway, about 75, 80 feet further, there is a new driveway that we're putting in to 10 parking spaces. Those are lawn parking spaces. They're labeled on the plan as seasonal parking. It is a permeable lawn setup. As you're well aware of, because we're on the outside edge of the Aquifer District here, there is good sand and gravel down in that corner. The loam will be stripped off, the gravel will be put on. There's a detail on the last page. And where basically there's a gravel base that goes in, and then there's a honeycomb type plastic texture that goes down that has these rings, and you can either lay sod on top of it or loam and hydro seed on top of it. Either way, after 2 cuttings from either approach, the roots are established enough that you can drive a fire truck over it and put a fire truck stands on, park on it. We don't believe that there's going to be a lot of call and use for it, but we have it there for the summer events. The summer events would be a Saturday wedding. So if we have, let's say, she got lucky and she booked every Saturday out during the May to October, we're talking a maximum of 24 events, and you'd have potential to have cars parked down in here for, 4 hours or 5 hours, or however long a wedding event occurs. So gives that. We had discussion about this at the planning board. The zoning in Littleton for an assembly is 1 parking space for every 4 seats, with a limitation of 100. We have 30 spaces, that's 25 seats, that leaves 5 left over for staff. Now we have an additional 10 spaces on the property now to cover that. The planning board reviewed this last week. Ultimately, they agreed with it. We had some conversation about it, talked about possibly flip-flopping the parking so that the parking was up here a little bit further away from my infiltration basin, which is right along the edge of the property. But then when they realized it wasn't getting that much further away and we would potentially lose 2 parking spaces, because I don't want to extend Old Great Road any, I'm coming off the very end of the pavement of Old Great Road. And if I was to flip-flop those spaces so they were up and the access aisle was down lower, I would wind up losing 2 spaces just in geometrics to get into the site. So we kept that in that manner. We've also added this labyrinth. The labyrinth is just above the end of the parking. For those of you who are not familiar with the labyrinth is just a grassed area that will have stone edges that make the lines you see on the plan. It's a meditation device. You kind of walk through the thing, and it's calming and relaxing, and as part of that. So that's, again, it's a permeable surface. So those things are no effect on the impervious surface on the site. And basically, the driveway coming in, the fire chief, or fire safety officer, Chief Deputy Keith Dunn, the new regulations had upped it, and you probably saw this in the notes from the fire department back a ways, that access aisles have to be 20 foot wide. We had 16 foot with 2 foot shoulders. We narrowed it down to 12 because we wanted to keep this as this existing gravel driveway as low key as possible in the back. We are putting wrap on it, recycled asphalt product. But we agreed to make it 16 feet the whole way with a 2 foot shoulder on either side. And so I modified the detail on the following page, which said varies to 16 feet. So that was what Keith and I had agreed to earlier on. Those minor changes that would have been a condition change to happen after the fact, because we were doing so many changes to the plans, we incorporated them right now. On the front page, up in the site data, is where the changes are most notable, and that is in the proposed system flow in the middle of the site data. We went from where it used to say 180, where it now says 100 seat maximum capacity, and then it goes into the septic flow after that. And we've talked about this briefly at the last meeting, more with the planning board, but just to cover it real quickly with you. Title V flow for an assembly comes under a function hall, and that's 15 gallons a day per person, or per seat. So our numbers dropped from 180 down to 100. So at 15, that's 1,500 gallons a day. With 50% of that flow being collected, actually way more than 50, but 50 by Title V, being collected, all the black water is collected in the composting toilets and then composted on site, and the liquid hauled off site every other year. That brings us down to 750, which puts us below the allowed limit within the Aquifer Protection District of 6 gallons per 1,000 square feet of lot area, which comes out to about 790 gallons a day. So we'll be at 750 gallons a day by Title V estimated flows in reality, we're probably gonna be in the neighborhood of about 10 or 15 gallons a day when you average it out, and if on a weekend, you may get up a little bit higher. The only water that's going into that system is the hand washing from the sinks and the hand washing sink in the kitchenette. There is no dishwasher, there's no showers, there's none of that stuff in this property. It's just domestic flow from the toilets go into the composting sinks, a composting facility in the basement, and the flow from the others. So that was a big change there. And then in the parking change, I added in the 10 spaces for the seasonal parking down below. We continue to ask for the special permit from the planning board relative to having more than 6 gallons per 1,000 square feet per the Title V, per the Aquifer Protection District zoning, because the whole flow is still on the site, but 50% of it is going by way of the composting toilets. So that's straightforward. You may or may not have heard, the planning board did close their hearings, and again, regardless of how this board responds to the assembly use, the applicant is moving forward to make the modification to the garage and the modification to the site and everything, because that's what she needs to have for the meditation facility and the other things that she wishes to run on the property that are already uses that she already has permits for. We're in hopes that the assembly use is one that this board will approve based on all the information we gave you at the last meeting and with these modifications that we've provided from the standpoint, because that's going to be the thing that really pays the bills for the property. And I think that's it. Phil and I are both here to answer any questions. Phil's done some research because there was a bunch of questions relative to alcohol service at the last meeting. And between Phil and I, we can probably address some of that.
Okay,
I have some questions.
go ahead.
All right. I guess I'm concerned for the neighbor's benefit about the composting toilets and the smell the next day after a large event like this. Can you explain how the new technology works with these composting toilets?
I certainly can. It's kind of, let's take it as a side juncture because it really has nothing to do with the use permit that we're asking for, but.
Well, no, you're asking for an assembly of up to 100 people from us, and that's when a large flow would go in there, and we have neighbors concerned about smells,
Okay.
noise, that kind of thing.
Fair
And I
enough.
just want to understand the technology enough to satisfy myself that there aren't concerns with
Fair enough.
smells the next day.
Okay, composting toilets they come in several different manners. The ones that are going to be here are not the large hole that you see at various Girl Scout and Boy Scout camps that have composting toilets. They have the standard 4-inch hole in the bottom of the toilet, and it has a flapper, and it has a foam flush. So when you flush the toilet, there's a foam material that comes down, and it takes all the waste, and it drops down the pipes. Pipes go down, and I'm going to go to the architectural plan because it shows the bathrooms. The bathrooms are right here, and that was the other big change. In the bathrooms, we downsized from 3 toilets within the ladies' room and 1 toilet and a urinal in the men's room. Get all the way down to the last sheet here. The sheet that I just handed you this evening has there's still 1 toilet and 1 urinal in the men's room and only 2 toilets in the women's room. The reason that we did that again is because we were originally set up for having facilities that work for up to 180 people, and now this is a facility that allows 100 people. We didn't want to have more than was necessary for fear that people would think that we're trying to do something that we're not trying to do. The
Yeah.
applicant is working extremely hard to try to get the neighborhood to understand that she really is downsizing. She's trying to do and work with them as best she can. So that was something we've done. So
Can I
right,
interrupt for a second? It's
Yeah.
not our purview to tell you how many toilets you have.
well, it
but
is
if-
from
if-
building code.
If you have 50 women at an event, 100 people and half of them are women, 2 toilets doesn't seem like enough for 50 women.
Well-
But that's beside the point.
That's assembly, and it's the assembly code from architectural, from the use, so that's how that goes. So there are 2 toilets here and 2 toilets here, and directly below those are 2 different high-strength composting units in the basement. And it's an enclosed unit. That unit, everything will go down into that unit, and it has a little bit of heat to it, and I don't know the full mechanisms of the whole thing, but it's a enclosed composting bin. Does not have an odor to it. Does have a vent pipe that comes up through the surface of the building, just like everybody's home and everybody's business has vent pipes from their bathrooms and their septic system. They go up through the top of the house. No different. 3-4 inch pipe right up through the top of the house for venting. There's also upstairs over this old section of the house 2 single toilets for the arts and crafts that can occur up there as part of one of the other activities that she has going on, and for on the weekends or functions, the bride's changing area upstairs that has 2 separate bathrooms. Those ones are on order now to go in the near future, and they have a unit right in the front there. All 3 composting units in the basement are interconnected to a single holding tank, a 500-gallon holding tank, which takes the liquid. So once the liquid is all part of the assembly and part of the composting, but as part of the heat and the activity that goes on there, some of that liquid gets drawn off, and that liquid gets drawn off, goes into the holding tank. That holding tank, 500 gallons, for the estimated design flow would probably last 2 years. It has an alarm in it when it gets a certain point, and the company comes and hauls it away. The composting toilets have peat moss added into them on a regular basis, and they get raked. They get opened and raked. I don't know how often. I think it's like once a week or once every other week. New England Clivus is the provider. They're licensed for composting toilets in general, all different makes. Are licensed in Massachusetts under DEP, and New England Clivus is definitely licensed under that. There's a large conservation trust facility in Leominster, Mass. I forget the name of it right off the top of my head, but I have it in the folder behind me.
You've answered my question.
Okay.
I just wanted to understand how it vented.
That's a big facility.
Before you leave that subject, I just have one. On the raking and the maintenance of the system, is that something that DEP governs and it gets recorded at the Registry of Deeds? Or is that something that we ought to be considering, ought to be a condition in here about a maintenance contract to ensure that that gets done? Because I know I'm supposed to pump every year, and I'm 7 years on one of my properties.
You're only hurting yourself on that one.
I know, but people do.
Yes, good question. All IAs, innovative alternative permits from DEP, are required by law to have maintenance. Not only are they required by law to have maintenance, they're required by law to have it go on deed notice with the property. So there'll be a deed notice attached to this property that says there are composting toilets here. It's an innovative alternative system that's approved by Title V, by the Commonwealth of Mass. And there is a maintenance agreement, and before you buy this property, you need to understand it. And then there's a whole series of paperwork that goes when you sell property with an IA to another individual that they have to sign off on before or at their closing, so that they understand that they have an innovative alternative system and have to maintain a service agreement. So yes, there is a service agreement and a requirement to have a service agreement, and they have to keep the logs for the service agreement. And I don't think they have to turn them in on this one, but they have to show that they have a contract.
Okay,
And that's with the Board of Health.
thank you.
Now, the vents off my house, you likened it to the vents off my house. The vents off my house simply vent my plumbing lines. They're not venting my tank.
Yes, they are. You just don't know they are. Your tank runs out with a 4-inch line to your septic tank. And that 4-inch line does not run full. Matter of fact, it sits empty most of the time. And when you flush a toilet, you take a shower, the lower third of that line is in use. The air from all the aerobic activity in the air, methane gas from your septic tank, comes back up that line, goes right up the plumbing, not the plumbing, there's down plumbing and there's vent plumbing from every structure. You know you don't have it in a house when you go to it, when you go to somebody's camp or something and you flush the toilet and it bubbles. It gurgles rather than just going down, because it doesn't have a proper vent on it. So yes, you do have it, and it does vent right up through.
Okay. And I assume if they probably have filters on top of them and the top of the vents or whatever that makes it most efficient or
Yes.
however it needs it.
There are
Can-
filters right on the units themselves.
When we met last time, the house guidelines, a lot of those things came under question. And you had said there were a couple of changes. Could you tell us what changes there were?
Certainly. What she did after we talked about reducing the numbers and everything, she was looking at this, and she looked at trying to make certain that she had enough people at various different things that were going to be some sort of a moneymaker to help offset the reduction in the cost of the weddings. So under the mindfulness workshops, I believe your sheet says 30, and that number's changed to less than 35 rather than less than 30. Should be the top one.
Okay.
And I have 12 to 48 times a year. I don't know what the number is on yours on that.
It's in
I
24 to
apologize.
48.
I thought that you had this later sheet.
Is there anything else changing?
Yep. The contra dance classes, I don't believe has a number on yours.
There's less than 50 people.
No, the contra dance and open mic says less than 50 people. The
Ah.
dance class is above it, now says less than 25 people. And let's go right through all the numbers, because when I looked at yours beforehand, I checked those, but I didn't check the times. The drop-in meditation is 25 to 50 times a year.
Okay.
The contra dance classes is 6 to 24 a year. The contra dance and open mic is less than 50 people, which I believe is what yours says, 12 to 24 a year. Function rentals on Fridays is 50 to 70 people, 16 to 24 times a year. Weddings, it says 8 hours, and on Saturdays, and we'll come back to that time limit in a minute. Is less than 100 people, 26 a year, it's May to October. Function rentals, November to April, Saturdays, 50 to 70 people, 12 to 24 a year. And then I believe all of the issues at the bottom are all the same.
Would your client be willing to make a few changes to the house guidelines? For
Certainly.
example, number 8, it says that the house and grounds are non-smoking. Yet twice I've been over there in that area, and the business right up the street that is now no longer allows smoking on their grounds had folks standing out in the road, which are much more troublesome to their neighbors. I'm wondering if your employer would be open to having a smoking area at some point on the grounds that's away from the neighbors.
How about if we put it on the end of Great Road?
That's fine. I don't care.
That would
I don't
be-
want them.
That would be off the grounds, more or less, and a long ways away from any neighbors, because that
It
section
needs
of
to
the road
be,
is very wide.
it needs to be convenient for people, because otherwise they'll either do it in the parking lot or keep walking till the end of the parking lot.
Yeah.
So you might
Well,
wanna
clearly, Old Great Road's gonna be closer than going out to Beaverbrook. and-
I understand, but you might want to put it somewhere more, not down near a parking lot, but up somewhere more near your function. To
Yep.
try to keep people from trying to hide. The other thing I would ask is that number 4 says police detail required for all events where alcohol is served. Rather than specifying alcohol, one of the big concerns that we heard expressed was on people trying to pull out onto 119. And I would rather see, rather than the alcohol issue, I would rather see the number of people. Say, for example, when there's events of over 30 people, they might have a police detail to help get people out. Would your owner be be willing to
I
consider
think
that?
we need to be at a number much over 30 people. 30 people, if you have, let's say, a meditation thing or something of that nature.
Bruce, can I interrupt you a minute? What I'd like to do is hear all the comments rather than an answer specifically to that minutiae.
Okay.
It's a good comment, write it down. I'd like to hear the neighbors' reactions to those comments and the rest of the board before you try to start negotiating with one board member.
Okay.
Sounds like a plan.
Thank you.
Why don't you go ahead to someone else, and I think that may wrap me up, but can I? would
You can
reserve
come back,
the
I'll
right
give you
to
another
come back.
chance.
Thank you.
Anyone else on the board, please? Any other comments on the board? this end?
Jeff?
Okay, how about the neighbors? Oh.
The only comment I had is I went to the site today and walked around it, walked down Great Road, walked down Old Great Road, observed the tree cover, went into the house, talked to the builder who was there, and I was shocked at the condition of the house. It's much better than I would have thought. I mean, it's really in good shape. I thought it was falling down. It's not at all. But anyway, that's neither here nor
You
there.
insult the prior owner.
I guess so. And anyway, so, I was able to, my comments about the noise issue were there's a lot of noise. It's not coming from the site. It's coming from 119 and Beaverbrook. There were giant trucks going down Beaverbrook. There was the, continuous traffic on 119. It's, as an outdoor venue, it didn't seem like it was the ideal. It's very pretty, but there's a lot of noise on the site that's not related to whatever's going on the site. It's just there.
You mean the ceremonies outdoors?
Yeah,
Because
there
they're
were.
taking away
Yeah,
the outdoor
I think
thing.
that it's been good that's been not emphasized because anyway. So then my impression was that visually it screened quite substantially. If events are going to be on the lawn in the summer when the tree covers vary, you could barely see traffic on Beaverbrook if you were standing on the lawn. So anyway, I just confirmed my impression from the site plan. It seems like it's it's screened pretty substantially.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Just to say that I'm glad to see something like this coming into the town. And I say that because I have a fair amount of experience as a workshop facilitator, as a DJ, as a member of a number of communities, and being at a number of resorts and centers like this in New York, in Massachusetts, in California, and Arizona, that I'm familiar with all these issues. I'm familiar with the Clivus toilets, which had kind of shocked me when I first saw it as to just how great they are. And how it's amazing how I've seen them in the big camps, and I've also seen them in private homes. And they're fabulous.
No smell?
No smell, absolutely no smell. Really a great feature, and I think it's something that a lot more people should be thinking about. But I'm concerned that, I wasn't here last week, I don't have a vote here, but some things to me seem to be a real tight squash. I'm familiar with contra dancing. As a DJ, I'm familiar with dancing. With contra dancing, from my perspective, having 50 or 70 or 80 people really doesn't make a difference. The difference is you're going to have probably live music for that. That's what they do. It's not going to be any louder music for more people. People don't do a lot of yelling and screaming. I mean, just reality. And I've done a lot of dances where there's 70 or 80 or 100 people, but that doesn't matter. What matters is the level of the music, how loud the DJ is, how loud the live orchestra is, or whatever. And so, and I think that I've seen a lot of labyrinths. I'm also, in addition to my professional life that mostly people here know about, I'm a Reiki master teacher. I'm a polarity therapy practitioner. So I'm familiar with these kinds of things. And it just seems like it's pretty restrictive, and it seems like there's a heavy hand about squashing it down. I just hope that going forward that this will be welcomed as a positive resource. And I appreciate your presentation. I think it's been well laid out. And I just wanted to say that I hope that this can all work out so everybody can feel like it's a win-win around the.
This board hasn't been the heavy hand.
No,
that's not
I'm
what I
not
meant.
assigning blame. I'm just saying that, there are certain things I think, as an example of the contra dancing, I think it's not about how many people are there. It's really more about the level of the volume of the musicians.
Alan, can I ask you to speak to that for a minute? Do you have experience with the sound and decibel levels of what's prohibited in a community like this under the zoning bylaw, or under the, must be the regs? Because we have limits on
Yeah.
the decibels. And just in your experience, if the noise is coming from inside that addition, back in here, and the closest neighbor, Bruce, have you got a straight line as the crow flies to the closest neighbor? I just want to know if you could give us an example of what's the kind of decibel level you're emitting as a DJ inside a closed building,
Yep.
and how far it will travel so that it's annoying.
It's a great question. I just did something, I do the Dance New England dances, I do Dance Freedom, Dance Friday, all those dances. And usually around 90 decibels is where they begin to get a little nervous. But 85 is plenty. I just did something, I DJ'd a 4th of July alternative dance at Somerville Armory on 4th of July. They have very tight neighbors. They're very restrictive about the sound, and they have a 90 decibel level that they can go. They
Limit.
monitor it all the time. Yeah.
This
they
is on the
monitor it.
inside.
It's on the inside.
And then
Right.
from that 90 decibel limit on the inside, where would you say the sound, how far would you say that sound would travel, so it's,
I mean, if it's inside, like I said, in Somerville, they had neighbors right butting up against them. It's a very, very tight
So it
situation.
wasn't trouble from.
so what have you got for a distance to
Something
the?
like Concord Center where they are at the
Scout House.
Scout House, which is immediately surrounded by homes.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with that.
This is from the edge of the house to, I'd say, the Sullivans or the Reedies. I'm measuring 320 feet.
Yep.
I'm setting their house at 60 feet back from the road, which I'm pretty certain it's at least.
I'm familiar with those distances. I've knocked on every one of those doors in that neighborhood, and that's plenty of distance to not be bothered.
And this
by.
is 100 feet. Oops, can I switch scales? Hold on a second here. This is where this pile is down to 70, but 70 to 90 feet of existing wooded vegetation through here, and she's going to be enhancing the edge and
Right.
planting in through here.
I just want to stay on this another minute, because I know the noise in your neighborhood is the biggest bother, and especially since the function activities are going to occur at those hours that you want to enjoy your backyard and your barbecues and your outdoor life in exactly the same months. But my kid had a rock band, and they did some heavy metal stuff in a barn in my backyard with open doors and open windows all summer long. And I think only 2 neighbors even heard it, and all said to me, "Oh, your kid's practicing, it sounded so good." Sometimes,
We heard
very, very infrequently, I know you did, but very,
It wasn't burdensome.
it wasn't
They weren't that
burdensome.
loud.
And very infrequently, I might hear something from as far away as the Tiki Bar late at night coming over the hill. But also, it's not really burdensome. It's like
The tiki bar's got to be burdensome to their neighbors.
to the neighbors, yeah.
That's got to be.
So I'm just curious about whether you can give me an idea of what that, again, in the closed building. I know they said last month about open doors in the summertime. And where are the doors going to face on that building, and where's the sound going to emanate from and to?
This is probably this piece that comes, well, let me go back to the architecture. This piece here that faces towards Beaver Brook Road would be where most likely the stage or this stuff would be set up, a DJ or any band. If ceremonies would happen, this would be where the ceremonies would happen and come through. And let's make sure I didn't do anything different. Get to the last page here. So if that's set up, this is all solid all the way around. The door, the main access, they'll be open to the hall and to the Renaissance Hall and the meditation area for other uses. And then there are doors that come out at 90 degrees to Beaver Brook Road towards Old Great Road here. And those doors, for the most part, we keep closed. This would be an AC, an air-conditioned unit in space. You may have that spring or fall night, probably fall night when the bugs aren't as bad, that the temperatures are nice, that you may want to try it. But the applicant, the owner, is very aware of the noise levels. It's part of the bylaw. I've gone over that with her, and I've gone over and explained numerous times that that residential level starts right at the property line with her and the road. It doesn't start at the abutter's property line. It starts right at the road.
Okay, so I just wanted to stay on track with the decibel levels, Alan, and I appreciate your input to that, because I think you of all of us are more familiar with that.
I have some
Go
input
ahead.
on that also.
Yeah.
Architecturally, there are building techniques that can limit the sound. And a lot of these are incorporated in for new construction in the standard, energy codes, because you want air tightness and, certain types of insulation, et cetera. And sadly, I'm involved in a project that has some acoustic problems, and so I recently took a seminar on this. And, one of the points was that exterior, just from a road, decibel levels are 70 to 90 decibels. So my feeling, once again, is that it would be in their interest to incorporate some acoustic techniques such as glazing and acoustic insulation to protect them from the noise that's coming from outside the site.
It's not,
This is something that, those are part of the conversations we had with the initial architect on the project, Mobile Architecture, our Mobile Architects over in Harvard. I believe Mobile's back on the team now. There was a little difference of opinion midstream, but they're back on. I know they're working with them right now on going for some ADA discussions with the state, meeting with Tom. So that is something that we've talked about. We do want to have the old style barn with the rafters up above, which, as you know, that works real well with acoustic tiles and stuff to hang from and in between to help break up
absorb,
noise.
okay. Board, any members of the board, I got abutters who want to be heard.
The only comment I have is an area that we cannot consider.
I'm sorry.
The
go-
parking.
No, it's
No,
not our purview.
that's not entirely right. We do have the ability to consider the impact to the neighborhood and whether this is substantially more detrimental than the existing use. And so if parking or if cars or congestion are going to make this substantially more detrimental, we do have a right to consider it.
Okay,
The number of spaces is set by the zoning bylaw. I don't think we can say 30's too little, we need 33, but we can consider whether parking is adequate for this use.
Yeah, I personally think it's not, because most weddings I've gone to, you get couples in a car. For every car with 2 people, you need another car with 6 to make the numbers work. But, that's by statute. The thing
Okay.
that really bothers me is we now have 3 lots, not interconnected. Anybody coming into a lot that's full has to go back out onto Beaver Brook or Old Great Road and into another lot. And I could see a lot of extra cars going back and forth, off property and back on property, trying to find a parking space. And then, of course, you have 50 people coming to a dance. How many are coming 4 in a car? Or in that case, 2 in a car. So, I do have concern over the quantity of spaces. And where do people park if you have 40 cars or 35 cars for an event with 100 people? Where are they going to park?
Well,
There's no overflow.
walking
or
the site, Old Great Road is just a big wide.
Dead end.
Yeah, but didn't the planning board say no parking signs?
No.
There's
they
no
did
parking
not.
signs on Beaverbrook. I don't see how you can limit parking on Old Great Road.
And there's just no
Springdale
reason to.
Farm has
There's no
taken over
neighbor.
the other side of Old Great Road.
1 minute until the
Well,
board,
if-
hold your question till the board finishes.
If we could allow overflow parking on Old Great Road.
Oh, but it's
then
a
I have less
road.
concern.
How can we, people park on my road? How can you
park.
restrict people from?
I know.
One
there's
at
no
one
one
at a
else down
time,
there.
one at a time.
No, I feel, it seems, when you go there, it just seems obvious. It's not even just a residential road, it's like wider than Beaverbrook. It's got curbs, it's like, it was an old highway. And there's no other use for it, except to access this property.
Okay, I wouldn't have any concern with that as long as people are aware of it and they don't try to park.
Well, I totally agree with you about the parking, because even if, that it's not consolidated, and even if getting from the parking, I agree with you about that, that's a problem, I think. And they have to manage, because it's not obvious.
Yeah, but the planning board has laid out the
Yeah.
parking spaces. That doesn't seem to be.
Yeah, I'm surprised from my old planning board days, I would not have approved,
But-
voted for something.
But Old
like
Great
this.
Road, I mean, it is we can't insist, it's a state road,
But-
so we can't insist they paint parking space lines or anything like that.
No, I need to stop you now and let the neighbors have their say, because they've all got pent-up things to say, and we've said our things. Go ahead, please.
Justin
Oh,
Steadman,
thank you.
17 Old Great Road. You're all under the impression that the state controls the parking on Old Great Road, is that correct?
No, we
Because
haven't.
I talked to the
haven't said
chief
that.
of police, and that is not the case. The town, it did used to be the highway, you understand that? And then they took the dip out that used to happen near Mary Theodoris's farm, okay? And at that time, they took some of her land, so they were making concessions to her, okay? So that, the Old Great Road now is a residential street, it's not a highway, but it is wide, okay? Because it was once a highway. So I went to the chief of police and I said, what gives on Old Great Road? Does the state control it? Do you control it? Did anybody in any board ever ask you about it? No, was his reply, although I did submit to the town of Littleton that I didn't think the parking was adequate. This comes from the chief. He also said that because Littleton plows it, that they can also put signs on it. So you could put on our side of Beaverbrook Road, residential parking only. You could put whatever sign you wanted as long as the town agrees. It's not state controlled per the chief. Now, this is something that you all should be checking out. It's something that the planning board should have got the correct answer to before they voted on it.
Justine, you just said we could put signs on Old Beaverbrook Road on your side.
Not Beaverbrook, Beaverbrook, we're on the
You
old.
said, no, I just wanted to clarify. You
They
said
are
Old
gonna
Beaverbrook.
put,
You meant Old
supposedly,
Great, okay.
they're putting signs on Beaverbrook.
That's what I thought.
But you feel that there could be overflow parking on your part of Old
Yes.
Great Road?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, there should
Especially
be.
because
And that's
four
what-
people to a car to a wedding, how many weddings do you go
I,
to?
I don't disagree with you, although I do think the capacity of the other side of Old Great Road is, 20 or 30 cars.
Can I just ask you, your Old Great Road, the other side of
The
Beaverbrook?
residential side, okay?
Right.
Yeah, but you agree that there's no other residences down on Old Great Road where this property abuts, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
But I mean,
That's
that
interesting.
is a concern for your road to have, yeah.
So why can't we ask for old resident parking only
Well,
up
it's
there?
something we could consider. I mean, I'm adding it to the list. Let's add it to the list.
Because,
And that's your
again,
big concern, is the
It
parking
is
on
our
your side?
concern,
Okay.
because it's her driveway and it's my driveway, and it's all in front of our house, and I have $70,000 of landscaping, I don't want cars
If-
running over it.
Do you think that would deter people from parking up there if we required a posting?
Sure, because then if I see them parking, it's easy enough
Then
to
you
call
can
the
call the
police and
police.
say, and if you wanted to make it that, we went down and you got one of those beach permits and you went and you X'd out beach and we stuck that on the window, it'd be easy to see who's a resident, who isn't.
I want to just comment to you, because before this meeting started, you shared with me that you saw me at the planning board hearing. I was there for a different hearing, but I was there and I heard the presentation. I want to share with you that now that you've just said that here tonight, I don't think planning board understood that you were looking for no parking on your side of Old
I
Great Road.
didn't, because in the last
They-
meeting, I didn't understand that.
Yeah.
No, because
Yeah.
at the end, I still had my hand up and they closed
And
the
they
meeting
closed
and
the
just
hearing.
voted.
And so I just want to say to you, I think that's a condition we can talk to the applicant about and maybe satisfy that concern of yours.
That would be great.
Okay, so the next one, please.
Well, I just wanted to make a comment about the noise. I appreciate what you said about today, in a day when you're there in the middle of the day, you're hearing the trucks come down Old Great Road, and they're, in Beaverbrook Road, they're very noisy. You're hearing 119. It does get very noisy. And our neighbors.
Sorry, identify yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mary Rommel, 15 Old Great Road. The Reedies, the Sullivans, and the Terrells could not be here tonight. All three families happen to be on vacation with their families, or they would be here. And for them, the noise during the week of the trucks bombing down Beaverbrook is just heinous.
Where are they going?
It's, they're using it as a cut-through from 225 to 119 to get to 495 usually.
Because it was really notable, there were like
It is
big,
notable.
like
With
excavation
the
trucks,
air-
yeah.
And
Foster
when you
Street's-
have a wedding, they're gonna have to talk above that, you know, dearly beloved is gonna have to be above that
Which is
noise.
why I think the outside things are,
But I think the point that that our neighbors who are the most affected, I mean, Justine and I are across the way a little bit, but what they're most concerned about is their only time to have peace and quiet is on the weekend. And now that's going to be taken away from them. It's going to be noise all the time, Friday night, all day Saturday, Saturday night, I don't know if Sunday's events too. And so I think the concern is that the quality of life of the people in that neighborhood it has already been diminished somewhat by this traffic, which is what it is, but it's Monday to Friday, and it's largely 6 a.m. till 5 p.m., and now it's going to be on the weekend. So that's the concern that we have.
but there are
noise.
bylaws in town for noise. And if they're affected, they call the building inspector, he comes out, monitors it, and
I guess what I'm saying is, to understand that noise concern, and then number two, just the hours, and I don't know if you have jurisdiction on, because you're jurisdicting hours as well.
Let's
I
talk
wanna
about the
ask you
noise for a
something
minute,
about-
and we'll
for
go
the
to the
truck for a
hours next.
second. Both Foster Street and Tehadaway were at one point back in the 60s and 70s being used as cut-throughs to get over to the common. So they put signs up restricting the size of the trucks allowed to use those roads. And it worked beautifully. I don't understand, I would believe that you guys could go to the highway department or the selection team and ask for that. I think, for example, Russell Street is suddenly becoming a big cut-through between 119 and 2A. I went down it the other day and noticed 2 large trucks on it and thought that that's ridiculous to be going through our school and that we need those signs there also. So could you look, I would recommend that you look into that, see if you can get a truck restriction put on your street so your little back road doesn't become a highway.
I think you got the Littleton Westford problem there, because it's
We
a double
do.
jurisdiction.
And trust me, I've gone to the highway department, there was a tree that was about to fall out, it was held up by a little branch. 3 weeks later, they finally came and
Yeah.
took it down. I don't know their work schedule, but we were hoping that when Market Basket went in, that we would get a light. Because in the summer, you hear, boom, and then maybe 2 hours later, boom. That's why I think you really need a traffic study here. Because if a Friday night wedding, you're trying to put 100 people in those parking lots that you said weren't connected, so they're gonna be coming in and out, you're gonna have a traffic nightmare, because all of those industry people are trying to leave at that hour.
Can I ask the applicant and attorney, please, to let us continue hearing all of the objections, because the crux of this is whether or not it's detrimental to the neighbors. And so please bear with us. I know some of it might not be the ZBA's jurisdiction, but I think the detriment to the neighborhood is clearly the jurisdiction of the ZBA. Let's talk a minute about the noise, just a little further. When Jeff said that there were modern architectural things you could do to keep the noise down, and Bruce explained that the back doors that face Beaverbrook are not going to be open, and very likely even those side doors at right angles aren't going to be open. And Alan explained that 85 decibels is really not of such a sound level that's going to travel that far. Does that satisfy any of those concerns? Because they're not going to be outdoors anymore.
Again, if they have to come inside by a certain time, which was in the house rules, I don't understand why the windows and doors need to be open. Because that's a sound containment if you close the windows and doors, and they do have air conditioning. Because you're saying that this is gonna pay the bills. That means that anybody who wants to rent it, whether it's a bagpipe people or whatever, are gonna rent it, okay? And again, my husband's in the ER position, he does need his sleep.
So, this is the...
I think your comment, to answer your question, yes, it would help, but what we heard, and this is where sometimes I think is, and especially me being unfamiliar with how this all works in the US, we heard from the planning board that Mr. Ringwald was asked, would they keep the doors closed, and he vehemently opposed and said, oh, no, we want the absolute opportunity to keep those doors open as we need them. So if a restriction could be, the doors should be closed, for activities after like 4 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday and a Sunday, whatever, then, you know, that's fine, but that's not what I'm hearing. I'm hearing that doors are gonna be open.
You know, the first ZBA meeting a month ago, by coincidence, Mr. Kimball was in the room from Kimball Farms, and he's in the business of assembly and entertainment and other things. And he kept commenting, the house rules are a recipe for dooming this business to failure. And I can't get over quite that feeling. There's a number of things that I think can be house rules that would make the quality of life in your neighborhood palatable, like no outdoor tent, like bringing no acoustic music after a certain hour, like making sure the music is indoors. But if we start tying the hands of this business such that they can't even open a door, especially if there's an air conditioning failure one night and they have to open it
Oh,
to...
that's extenuating circumstance.
I know that, but I'm even looking at these numbers. When Bruce has here at House Rules, the mindfulness workshops are gonna be 35 people. If the 36th shows up, is that gonna be an occasion for the police patrol to come out? I'm worried about the House Rules being too restrictive. So I'd like to focus on the things that are really important. Parking, the decibel levels, I mean, based on what Alan said, if 90 is allowed, but 85 does the job, you know, maybe we limit at 85. Maybe we require some of that acoustic siding that you're talking about. Maybe that's how we can all get to yes here.
But I'm back to it's pretty noisy there now. So if you're a minister and you're trying to have everybody hear the wedding, you're gonna have to crank it up a bit, because you're not gonna be heard
I
on
guess
the one.
my point is that the structure itself, it's to their advantage to make it acoustically perform, because it's gonna help their functions.
Right. But
To
they're gonna
insulate
have
them
outdoor-
against the noise from the outside, as much as insulating you from their noise.
But that's the regular marketplace. They're not gonna be able to have a 5 PM wedding on a Friday night because of the noise. They might be able to...
Oh, they
It's
are.
not outside. No, I mean outside for the minister. It just won't work.
I'm telling you, if it's allowed, they're gonna do it.
No, I'm just saying, if you're saying that noise is so horrible coming from the street that the minister can't be heard, there's not many people that are gonna rent it for that hour, for
The
that
honest
service.
truth is,
Yeah.
people don't know when they rent it. They'll come to see it at noon on Wednesday, and it'll seem fine.
I know, but if the minister can't be heard because of the trucks, I don't think you'll be hearing the minister. They're not going to have outdoor acoustic music, outdoor amplified music at any time. So
Yeah, I know,
you're not gonna
but
have it.
as I say, that's why I think the board needs to be very careful, because if this is not a successful business plan, and you put in all these special uses, they run with the land, not the applicant, so the next person will get everything you put in.
Well, I was thinking about some of that. They're here, and maybe Mr. Iliopoulos will answer this, but I've been sleeping on, staying up nights thinking about this, because people who know me know that I'm a sort of a Solomon in my approach to things. What I was thinking about is, they're here on a special permit for accessory use. And they have driven home time and time again that the uses that they're proposing are sort of these benign, holistic, healthy, associated with Reiki, and that the primary use is a holistic medicinal kind of a facility. There's no reason why we can't make our permit say that this is a special permit granted only in the event that it's accessory to a Reiki holistic type of facility. And that way, if it changes hands to a big bongo drum,
Think the worst.
think the worst, they'd have to come back to alter that permit.
Yeah.
And I've been
generally
thinking
think-
long and hard about that as the solution to what you're worried about.
Yeah, because I
Okay.
am worried about it.
Okay.
I think you make a very good point, because I think one of the things that has really concerned the neighbors is this started off with a nice personal letter to all of us in the spring saying, Soaring Hawk will be a place for meditation and yoga, and we're all thinking, wonderful, we're dropping in on Saturday, can't wait. And then it went from yoga and seven parking spots to suddenly, 120 people. It's a totally different proposition in terms of the congestion in the neighborhood, the noise, the possibility of alcohol, the events, all of those things. So I think that's a wonderful solution
Thank you. Yeah.
to add in, for sure.
Thank you. All right, so let's talk about the parking. We talked about the decibels, and I still left an open item on,
Smoking area.
no, not the smoking area, something else you started to raise.
Okay, on one, they have the, I guess it's the parking that's gonna be permeable there. Yeah, I've seen that, where they put down the cement and then the grass grows up in the middle. But I think it needs to be lined, because when you don't line parking spaces, you don't get as many people parked, because they don't park in the line.
Oh, that's a good idea. They can probably spray paint the grass
Yeah.
on the
That'd
months.
be fine,
I
then
mean,
we'll at least have as many spaces
Put
as we
down
think
line,
we will.
anything.
Yeah, line can go down. Not a bad idea.
Okay.
There was one other thing, though, I wanted to talk about.
We had concern of noise, we had parking, access, parking amount, Old Great Road parking, managing parking, and then the weekends versus everything, and then my use has gone back up to more than 100 people.
I don't
Hours
understand, why are
maybe
we
of
limiting
operation.
it to just 100 people, but
I don't think you could have more than 100 people in
The
this.
parking dictated the limitation, I think.
even with the new parking?
No, the limitation on the number of people has been a situation where we went from what you thought would be something that you could have in a big tent outside. And when the butters didn't want to have the big tent, and that was very clear, and she didn't want to fight that, she said, okay, we'll drop it down. And she went down to a number that she thought she could do inside or outside, depending upon the weather. And then the neighbors were still up with that, so she said, all right, I want to have it so I have enough space to do 100 people inside, and I can do everything inside, and I won't have a tent outside, and I won't do anything outside other than gatherings. But there'll be no events. So that's how it got to 100. It was not dictated by parking, because the large events were something that was off in the future, if everything was successful, and not on the near time, and that would be something that you would have to get off-site parking from.
Can you tell me how many spaces you have on site now without the 10 overflow spaces? What's
We
the
have
total?
30 spaces without the 10 overflow spaces.
And so the 10 overflow spaces gives you 40 on site.
That's correct.
And if I were to
You're gonna have at least 10 on Old Great Road.
If I were to insert a condition that says that your parking for weddings ought to be signed so that you fill up the
Yeah, if I
Old Great
can,
Road side first,
maybe I can address some of the comments in the notes that I have.
please.
Relative to the parking, and it was mentioned somewhere that it needs to be managed. We totally agree. She needs to have A-frame signs and set up that, you know, this parking is full, and that this parking is where you're gonna come to. And they're gonna have to maintain and control the handicap spaces if they need them, because they're here and this is the handicapped access. So that's gonna be part of, if you're setting up a wedding and you know that you've got, 4 cars of elderly people that need to have the nice, easy access in, as part of your group, you're gonna be telling them, we need to have those spaces out back, or they need to get there. The management of the facility is gonna have to be controlling that, and they can easily be controlled with an A-frame sign and/or a person at the intersection right here, directing people down into these lots. And/or a sign right at the top here, so that you don't go down into this lot and have to.
Yeah, but if I've gone that far to see the overflow sign, I'm turning around in her neighbor's driveway.
No, you're not, you're turning around right here in the very empty commercial lot right next door and coming
That
right
has a
back.
U-turn.
It's got a big, huge
Yeah,
U-turn.
but probably not. You don't know the way I drive.
You wouldn't be turning around in anyone's driveway, you'd be pulling a U in the
I'd
middle.
pull you in the middle.
Again, you're trespassing on somebody's property, whether it's the Burke's
Right,
commercial, or
right.
whether it's us. We're talking about, we're gonna use Old Great Road so that we can accommodate those people. Now we're talking about using Burke's to turn around. We're doing a lot of bending over backwards for
I
this
need,
applicant.
I need to know, what have you got for parking down in
Actually, we're
this,
being very restrictive.
the Old Great Road area down here.
Okay,
Okay.
back to the events and controlling parking. Not only do we have the management of the facility helping with that and A-frame signs, she's got in her house rules that if there's an event, there's gonna be, with alcohol, there's gonna be a police detail. So now we have a police detail to help with the parking as well.
Stop a minute, stay with me, please, on the parking, because I think that Rod's comment,
Old,
wait, just stay with me a minute, please. You've got your handicap parking up here on Beaver Brook,
correct.
and you've got almost 25 spaces down here on the Old Great Road, 4, 9, 12,
I
17,
think we have
27.
More than that.
You've got 27 down here off Old Great Road.
That would be correct.
So if I've got a sign down here that says wedding parking, routing people to Old Great Road, and I've got a sign up here that says handicap, maybe elderly or small children,
Yep.
well, won't that solve the problem? So the mass of the wedding parking gets down here.
Yep.
And there's plenty of spaces that to meet the parking guidelines with your overflow, you've got 25 spaces down here. So Old Great Road won't be used in your parking count for this site. And maybe even you put your wait staff and your vendor parking up here on Beaver Brook. So I don't have a lot of your wedding guests going all the way up Beaver Brook and needing to back out and turn around.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Also, you also have a turnaround now at, you don't need to turn away people at where the drive enters Beaverbrook. They can come down and see that it's
Most
full and
definitely.
turn around and come back. I mean, it's
Right.
not like they have
Right.
to back into traffic and.
Totally agree.
And they won't actually be able to see that it's full down when they first pull in because of the vegetation. They're gonna have to come down to see it's full and turn around.
Unless we have a sign that says the lot's full.
Is that right?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
could you put that into maybe something of house rules? Yes, go ahead, Justin.
Do you think a traffic study needs to be done? Because I do.
We've done many traffic studies for 40Bs and things like that. And when you get on a high-traffic road, like what Beaverbrook's becoming,
Yeah,
and what
and
119 is, 100 cars in over a 2-hour period makes absolutely no difference in the numbers at all. And the engineers will come back and tell us 100 cars makes no difference in the engineering at all. And so what we're talking about is a maximum of 100 people, so you've got a maximum of 100 cars, and they'll just tell us there's no difference. That's what they'll do, because you have, even coming down Beaver Brook, you must have, I don't know, 20 every 15 minutes, even in low traffic times?
Well,
Over
can I tell you
3,600
my
cars a
experience?
day.
Because I go there every day to my house. When I come off 119 and it's rush hour, okay, I have to take a right onto Beaver Brook. And then I have to stop because now I have to take a left and I'm watching the rearview mirror because they're coming barreling off 119 and I'm ready to hopefully not get rear-ended because there's people blocking me coming down to 119, and I have to sit there kind of in the, impact position, hoping that somebody doesn't come off 119 that fast.
That's not fair. How long have you lived where you live?
Probably too long, but we've spent too much money to
Oh, I
move.
understand, but I bet the traffic wasn't like that when you bought it.
No, it wasn't.
And that's not fair.
But
I
that's the
agree.
way it is, okay?
But those-
And
what
I
I'm-
know that,
Let's
but
say
I'm
on
saying
that.
a traffic study would be a good idea.
It's not, she's correct in that it's not going to
Well-
result in anything that will change.
Well,
What
here's
we're
one
seeing
thing
here.
that they might do, okay? On 119, maybe they edge out, like, for the people that are going right, because there's gonna be a lot of
A turning
people
lane.
coming on this property in a short window of time, and if it's a Friday night wedding, all those people are trying to get either up 119 or up Beaverbrook. And they might come up with, maybe on 119, you edge out a little for another lane, because otherwise you're gonna have it stopped.
So there is,
On 119, it'll be stopped.
I'm telling you that when they built the Omni project, which is 15 Great Road, and we had that extensive traffic study done to add, how many units was it?
200.
200 units. That traffic engineer said de minimis increase in traffic. And I would say intuitively, all of the traffic coming and going from that site is between, 7 and 9 in the morning and 4 to 6 or 4 to 7 at night, and they still concluded de minimis
I gotta
traffic.
tell
Well,
you.
what I would have thought they might say is it needs a light, and it needs a
They
light.
didn't.
And when it's non-rush hour times, it can be
Yeah.
blinking yellow,
They,
or
didn't.
whatever.
you know, that comes up right over a hill. And we really fought and argued and talked about that entrance because I see it as very dangerous. And we're gonna have school bus stops there and all the problems coming up over that blind hill.
And on the-
And at that site down there. And we really wanted to be able to have the power to make some changes. So we had those traffic studies done and we looked at them with a microscope. And there was nothing we could, it was so, they said it would make such a little difference that there was nothing that we could really ask for or do. It was very distressing.
So let me
They
take
lowered
Bruce,
that hill a little bit.
Yeah, right.
let me take Bruce,
Have you driven
please.
it?
Yeah, about a foot or two.
So, just real quickly on traffic study piece. Great Road is roughly, in 2009, 2007, 23,600 cars a day. And Beaverbrook Road is 3,200 cars a day. We're talking about, if we're having a wedding with 100 people, 50 more cars. We'll say 60 more cars, that some of people come by themselves, and only a few people come together as twos. So there's 60 more cars. 60 more cars is such a small percentage of those numbers. To get a traffic light, there are certain warrant levels, and you have to hit those levels. And adding 60 cars in to 3,200 cars, or 60 cars to 23,000 cars, is such a small percentage, and not during the typical hours of time that those rush hours are, that it would definitely not trip any warrant articles for a light. I can guarantee that.
Okay, so we've
Okay, but
we've gone.
I do want to tell you that we had an accident just recently with a FedEx truck, and it was backed all the way. I was outside Market Basket, in the car, waiting for them to move that accident with the FedEx truck, and it was backed up miles behind me. So get ready for it all.
You might need
Well-
a traffic light there, but I don't think you need the traffic light because of them.
Well, I
I think
think
you
it's
just
getting
need a
worse.
traffic light because it's getting worse and worse. I mean, if Powers Roads has a traffic light, so should you, quite
Well,
frankly.
There's the example of the high school. The state will not allow a traffic light at the entrance to the high school. It's
Okay, so-
unbelievable.
okay, so it's
You know,
moved.
Terrible.
So what I'd like to do now is poll the board, which I often do, to see which way they're leaning on their feelings toward granting an accessory use permit for these uses. And then if the board is leaning toward granting it, which I'm sensing from the comments here, then what I'd like to do is sit and talk about the conditions we would impose that make sense to your quality of life, so that it's not a substantially more detrimental
Can
to
I
the
ask two more
neighborhood.
quick questions?
Sure.
When these things have to, the tanks have to be raked once a week, that's still no smell?
I don't think it's once a week, he says.
Well, somebody
They're
said
very,
once a
they're actually
week.
very low maintenance.
It's very, very low maintenance. They're in the basement, and whoever comes in from Clivis, they come in, and I don't know what the schedule is, but it's gonna be based upon the usage of the facility. So it could be once a month, it could be once every 2 months, it could be once a week if they have incredible usage.
But there's still no smell.
There's no smell, man. You come in and they open up the door and they rake it in. Sometimes they have to add a little bit of peat moss. They keep bales of peat moss on hand, and they add some peat moss into it, and it gets raked in.
Okay, and the other question, one of the other questions, garbage removal. Is there gonna be another garbage thing, or is the caterer taking everything away, so a big
We're gonna have a
garbage?
dumpster.
Good question.
We are not having a dumpster on site. We have put in for totes that are be in the basement. There'll be big doors that access for the totes. They're gonna be in the basement. They were gonna be in the
that's nice.
garage before, but the garage has now been converted, so they're gonna be in the basement.
That's a real good question, Justin.
Okay, one of the board members said that, there's nice screening. On another meeting, they said that they were gonna remove all the invasive species. Well, the invasive species might be quite a bit of the nice screening, because, for example, burning bush is considered an invasive species. So I agree with you, we have nice screening now, but how much of getting rid of the invasive species is gonna go and impact that screening?
Did you have a landscape plan on your site plan review?
We don't have a landscape plan, we have a local landscaper, I forget her name, Suzanne something, who lives here in town, who is working on the project. They are doing the landscaping within here. We've taken out the invasives within the garden areas that are up in and around the house proper and down towards the front here, making all this space good. Just gonna be doing some work off in this side very shortly. We're not gonna go through the woods and thin the woods of burning bush or bittersweet or anything that's in there that's making the woods thick. It's
There are other
that's
things
not
that
our
make the
goal.
woods thick, though.
There are, but we're not gonna go and it's not our plan to go and reduce the woods. Our plan is to reduce the garden area of invasive things and beef that up and beef up the edges. She wants to maintain this vegetative buffer.
Okay, I just wanna go over one more time. We have 40 parking spaces, you got 100 people, so let's say they arrive 2 to a car, so there's 50 spaces. And then you're gonna have the photographer, the florist, the caterers, and the band people. And they're gonna all fit on their side of Old Great Road, correct? And we're gonna have the,
Well, I'm seriously considering signage on your side.
yeah,
I
thanks.
have a synagogue, I put out portable signs whenever we have a wedding or a funeral because.
Well, they don't even have to be
Yeah.
affordable, because I have 2 other pieces of property. This is my principal residence.
Yeah,
But, for example, in Andover, Merrimack College is getting bigger every day, and all the little streets in Andover
Yeah.
that are close there say resident parking only.
so I think that has to be with approval of the police.
Yeah,
But I think you can, post your own lot, no parking. I've seen people do that when there's
well, I
events and
think it would be
functions.
better to have the police put on, if you're going up Beaverbrook on the left side, not the side where the meditation center is, resident parking only.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask the applicant to get the police permit or the selectman's permit to do that. I
But it could
think
be
that's
permanent,
important.
it could just be permanent sign that no
Yeah.
one needs to take up or down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That says resident parking
That's what they
only.
do at the
Totally
streets
fine.
next to Merrimack College.
And that'll finesse the, because any parking restriction would affect Springdale, but they're residents, so.
And that's exactly right, because Paul is a resident there, Jamie's a resident, her migrant workers could be deemed summer residents,
Yeah.
but a person coming for a one-night wedding is not a resident.
Right, but you don't want to do something that would limit her
Any-
use of.
I
Any more,
think that's-
Justine?
No, I think that's it.
Okay, anyone else? Applicant? If
I'm gonna
it's
wait till you
all right,
come
I'm
with
gonna poll the
conditions.
board. Jeff?
Well, I think I stated last meeting that I was generally in favor of this, and since then, there have been further things that make it, aligned with, a successful project. I mean, I have the same reservations as everyone, the parking, the way it's distributed. Although, while going on site, I'm looking at Old Great Road, and I think that's a, pressure relief valve. I think that, I'll just streamline this in the conditions that we've talked about at this meeting. I think the conditions of the parking on the other side of Old Great Road, I think that's a very reasonable, condition. And I'm not as concerned with noise because I think that I think if it's constructed in a typical way, it will contain the noise. But secondly, there is a noise bylaw that we have to rely on. We've relied on it in other situations where there have been manufacturing next to housing. So, anyway.
Thank you. Done.
Well, I mean, the thing is, like I had said the last meeting, my concern was that if, I'm not opposed to the project if you can appease the neighbors, and we've got quite a list of things that they're looking for. And the thing is, if these items can be met, then I think the project could be moved forward to a point. But listening to everybody, I mean, the parking, I know, Sherry, you're gonna write down these conditions, and there would be a number of conditions I can see. But naturally, the parking on Old Great Road in front of the residences. I think these parking lots in the front, it would be nice if they could connect them and just have one entrance. It looks to me, you could drive across one of these parking spots and connect onto the grass, rather than coming back out onto Great Road. But I'm not gonna design it, I'm just thinking you could, which would help people not going in and then come back out. The thing is, I agree with the neighbors that if I was living there, I'm putting up with a lot of noise throughout the day. So now we come Saturday, Sunday, I don't see any reason why the windows can't be kept closed so that you don't have any sound coming over to the other properties if you want to have a wedding. You're going to be air conditioned in the summer, so the windows should be closed. Keep them closed. In the winter, they'll be closed because you're heating. Because I really wouldn't want to hear, after putting up with that noise for all week long, I won't want to have to listen to noise at 10 o'clock at night, hearing music playing. Because I do hear the noise from down there on down there at the Neshoba Valley Ski Area. And you can't hear it late at night.
But that's open air, too. That's open air.
It is. But I'm saying, I don't have to put up with traffic noise and trucks, and I don't live in a commercial area, so I can put up with that once in a while because I'm not suffering throughout the day. I think there's a lot of suffering in that neighborhood with the noise during the day. So, I mean, I think that's a legitimate, at some point, when am I ever gonna have quiet on my property? And that's what they're asking for, some quiet time on Saturday night and Sunday night. And I don't think that's unreasonable. And however you get to that point, I think you can get to it. So, I think that's about it. I mean, I think that from what I'm understanding from the neighbors, they're not opposed to this project. There were some items that if they could be incorporated in the decision, I think everybody could be happy with them. And that's all I have to say.
John, the only concern I think people have, I don't know, how could you write the closed window and door condition and still allow people to come in and out of the building? I mean, it's.
Oh, well, what I'm getting at is like, if you had a bar room like the old Tiki Lao, they had live bands there all the time, but they never had the windows open. It was just you open the front door.
They didn't have any windows?
No, they didn't. They didn't. But, I mean, just because you have windows, you don't need to open them.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, go ahead.
I don't think that's unreasonable, if you want to have these weddings and stuff. I mean, people are asking, they're paying taxes in town, they live in town, they're asking for a little relief on Saturday night and Sunday night. I don't think that's unreasonable. And to keep the windows closed, I don't think that's a big deal, personally. I may be totally wrong, but that's my opinion.
Okay,
One of
Cheryl.
the things we talked about was time. Are we abandoning that issue, or are we
They
going
have-
back
they-
to
the-
it?
the planning
It's in
board
their
had
house
it.
rules, and the planning board has established some times.
How
So,
late are they allowed
would
to
you go over that?
The planning board established a 10 o'clock end of events and 11 o'clock, quote-unquote, lights out, so give them an hour to clean up and.
So it has to be
get out.
quiet by 10 o'clock now anyway.
Quiet by 10 o'clock now. We have on our chart some things going to 10:30 and have to be curtailed by 10, I guess. I would prefer those to both be an hour later, but I haven't had a chance to consult with my client about those particular hours. But what they are is what they are.
So, John, the windows and doors being open, there's a lot of vegetation between, this is kind of downhill. None of where they're talking about locating the music is not in front of a direct door. I can see on a summer evening or a fall evening, especially when the ceremony's taking place outside late in the evening, wanting to have the doors open. And there's over 300 feet of space to the nearest neighbor, and there's a decibel limit thing. So I'm hesitant, I'm really quite worried about their success here. I'm worried that this business will go away and we'll end up with something like a stone yard here that would be allowed by zoning. So I don't want to cripple these folks too much. I want to keep the neighbors, I mean, I'm more worried about the noise of a smoking area being up near the road, quite frankly, than I am their doors being open. Right now, the Burke business next door has told, you weren't here, you were here, has forbidden people from smoking on their property. So there are 7 or 8 people frequently at the end of the driveway, on the edge of the public road, chatting away and smoking. And that kind of noise was really quite, as I pulled in to the next door neighbor, I heard them. My windows were down. I heard them talking and laughing and thought, oh, that's obnoxious. And then I said, oh, they're not allowing smoking. They're trying to get people to stop smoking. Well, at weddings and things, people smoke. So I'm thinking that we need to have a smoking circle for a large events or in a place for smoking to keep people from taking their drinks, because people who are drinking and smoking take their drinks out to the parking lot and standing there having their cigarette with their glass of wine in hand.
Well, I agree with you, Cheryl, but the thing is, the neighbors are asking for this. And the thing is, the neighbors are aware, if this doesn't succeed, then they could get something worse. And the other thing is, I would want the permit only go to the present owner, applicant right now. So. Oh, we had a mouse last week.
We had a mouse last time.
Yeah. I thought it was the mouse.
Bigger than a spider. It's under your briefcase.
Oh, don't tell me that.
Yeah.
I don't mind mice. I can handle it. Oh my God, it's a giant centipede. For God's sakes, kill the damn thing. Excuse my language, I'm sorry.
I don't like this. Oh, you woke up a couple people at home.
Well, a mouse ran under the thing last month.
That was great.
But that was fine. I don't care about mice. It's things that have more than 4 legs, Sorry. So
I mean,
anyway.
Well,
I
let me
just-
finish.
I just-
I agree with you. I agree. But the thing is, I also agree with the neighbors. And if this doesn't succeed, that's really not necessarily the board's problem. I hope it does succeed. I think it's a wonderful thing. But at some point, when the neighbors come to us, when are we ever going to side with the neighbors to a point? They're not asking for too much. I don't think the sound thing is a huge thing. And maybe they're all right with it, the windows being open. I'm just proposing this to make this thing move forward.
Okay, so we got your attitude on the windows. Other than that, I think we're all on the same page, so we'll leave that one maybe as a separate motion or a vote. Cheryl, any other comments?
No, I was satisfied about smells, and I am, the police detail of alcohol I can certainly live with. I would like to put it on number of people, but I don't care really. I do want to look at where you would locate a smoking area for these large events, because I want to make sure it's not up near the road, and,
Not near Beaver Brook Road.
right.
Yeah, I'm
All right.
suggesting down.
And
at
I'm
Old
saying,
Great Road.
I'm saying if you don't put it somewhere like this, centrally located, that you're going to,
Why can't it be down here in Old Great Road?
because no one will go down there.
Why not? The events are right here, why can't they come to here?
Well,
This is out in the yard.
Why don't you put it in your overflow parking area?
will they walk all the way out there?
From here?
Will they go the nearest, they'll go the nearest place that's off
I mean, if
property?
you come out the front door or off the
Sure.
farmer's porch door, you're right here.
I just want to keep it away from the neighbors and make it.
Totally as well.
And make it, so you've either put signage there or something that directs them to that area so they don't end up in the parking lots smoking next to their cars.
Okay.
Maybe you could use the building as a noise buffer, if they're like on the opposite side of the
Well,
building.
that's what he's proposing. I don't think you're gonna, they're actually quite a far ways away from you, and with a lot of screening.
They're here representing the closer neighbors too, though, who
I
couldn't
know.
come today.
Oh, I know, I mean, even saying for the
She's right here
closer
in the
neighbor.
corner.
Do we allow smoking?
Yes, we're not Cambridge yet.
Yes, and we do allow smoking in public streets, it's,
How about Alan?
If you put it with, like on the other side of the building, there's less noise.
that's what he's saying.
The other side, if between the smokers and Karen Torella is a building, that's preferable.
Okay. Al, you done? Alan?
Yeah, the other thing is I'm disappointed in that there's a restriction that's not related to volume, but related to the actual content, in that it says no drumming circles allowed. And again, in some place where there's acoustic treatment that's reasonable indoors, as if to say, well, you can't have flute music, or you can't have this, and that seems to me that's discriminatory by content, and I think I have a problem with that. I'd rather have there be a volume limitation than there being, well, you can't have this kind, we don't like minuets, so you can't do minuets, or,
Then
We
that,
didn't impose that.
Oh,
Yeah, that's theirs.
And number two, I just want to give you the reality of the situation, okay? The reality is, my husband works either 7 to 3, 3 to 10, or 10P to 7A, okay? When he has to work 3 to 10, he gets in at 1:30. When he has to start a shift at 10P, he goes to bed ahead of that, because he's still going to be working at 7 a.m. the next morning. That's a dose of reality.
Okay.
And drumming circles and that aren't going to fit too
Well, I appreciate your concern and your sensitivity there, but I also have been involved in many drumming circles that have been indoors, okay, in an acoustically treated facility that you wouldn't even hear at your house. I know where your house is from this place, okay, and I've just had the reality of the experience of hundreds of drumming circles where it wouldn't be an issue.
Can I ask the applicant about that for a minute? I see that it's on your house guidelines, but I did not see that your house guidelines were adopted in total from any decision. Were they adopted by the planning board?
They have not been
Okay.
adopted in total from any decision. And again, the House guidelines were Gia's attempt to try to
Make people happy.
appease and make people happy.
So as we get through this decision, if our decision references a special permit with limitations that we expressly state,
Yes.
plus substantially in accordance with your presentations, and then you try a drumming circle or two, and it turns out that that's a huge nuisance for the neighbors can bring it back to here. We would have a hearing on the violation of the special permit conditions, one of which condition might be that you were supposed to adhere substantially to the house guidelines, and at that point, we can hear from the neighbors that the drumming's too noisy and it has to stop. Other than that, I don't think we want to impose it specifically as a prohibition until we see if it's going to be a problem. Does that make sense?
Fine, because, bagpipes, drumming, whatever,
Yep.
it's all the same.
Okay.
That would be fine.
Okay, so let's move along to any.
I also would not be opposed, I would actually suggest that there might be a decibel limitation. I don't think we actually,
There is.
I don't think we need to because the bylaw in town has it.
Our town bylaws are fairly restrictive.
Rod?
I think that house rules are a good starting point for conditions. If they manage the parking and allow overflow parking on Old Great Road along their property line, then I have less concern, though I would encourage the applicant to look at joining those two lots. And if you did, maybe where the present road drive coming in from Beaver Brook could potentially be utilized for additional parking spaces.
I'm sorry, where was it?
I want to just comment on that. That my suggestion of having the signage for the parking on Great Road makes a lot of sense. Joining the two parking areas does an
He's
awful.
talking about joining these two.
Which two?
These two.
The two out front.
The overflow.
Right,
The
the hu-
seasonal with the.
No, I'm talking about
No, he's not.
this main one right in here.
Oh, you have to go right through the middle of the yard. We talked about that last time.
Or like this, and then this area could potentially be used for additional parking.
I don't
It's
see what you're
just
talking about, but
No,
what I
this
want to
is a
say is
suggestion.
that this is in a,
Just a
water resource or an aquifer district, and his percentage of impervious is restricted. And I think that they are not even close to their limits, but they don't want to go for higher variances. And a lot of the green space and the meditation space in between relies on there not being
Yeah.
traffic and
It's
asphalt
just
in
a
between.
suggestion, not a suggestion for a condition.
So I think that the proposal of signing the parking at the Great Road side, so you have your major guest list coming in to Great Road, not even going up Beaver Brook, no lights shining in the houses on Beaver Brook, no excessive noise coming in and out of Beaver Brook, I think that'll solve the problem.
And that's what I meant by managed.
Yeah, yeah. And Alan?
speaking to the code, this is external noise. So this is walking around the building. And at some point, what needs to happen is there needs to be a calibration as to how much can happen inside in order to be able to satisfy this outside.
Correct.
So, and that's something you don't know, given you don't know what the acoustical
The-
dynamics are of
Except
the building.
if that noise outside by a noise meter
Outside.
exceeds that, Roland's called right away and he can stop it. So I think that's
just as a practical matter, how does Roland filter out the noise from 119 to get, I mean, because he's right, there's a lot of noise from 119.
Well, one of the things you do is you take a baseline, but the interesting thing is, the 119 decibel noise exterior at 4 or 5 o'clock PM might always be greater than what's allowed, might always be that way, but there's no way to stop it. Yeah.
It
So
may
it's
end
on
up
the other side of
drowning
the
out
building.
whatever, yeah.
I think it's on the other side of the building.
Or do we ramp things up to be heard over the traffic noise, in
No.
which case, way over
No,
90?
and you're not gonna have the traffic noise in the same hours that you're gonna have the wedding noises at all. Your traffic noises are gonna be done by then.
5 o'clock on a Friday night wedding, you're gonna.
Your band doesn't get started at 5 o'clock. Your 5 o'clock or even a 3 o'clock wedding, you've got your ceremony, you've got your cocktail hour, you're not gonna ramp up your music.
And you got food.
And food,
venue.
yeah, then your music doesn't ramp up that early. An afternoon wedding, maybe that's a different story, but on an afternoon Sunday wedding or a Saturday wedding, you're not gonna have the
Oh,
truck
no,
traffic.
Right, the Saturday and
So I don't
Sunday
think
is
your
more
hours
of
are
a
gonna
Friday
overlap.
night deal.
Yeah. Go ahead, I wanna get Patrick, please, thank you. Patrick,
You're on.
I think that if this plan doesn't go through, the next applicant would have them start all over again. We have a good barometer of people experience with this event. Now, I would not want to come to this board again unless we get our act together as far as noise, traffic, and everything, These concerns are not gonna go away.
so are you in favor of the project if we can condition it in a manner that's somewhat negotiated between the neighborhood and the applicant?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know. And I just think that it seems to me the consensus of the board that they agree that the project can be allowed as an accessory use in this zone, and that the board consensus, if I'm not mistaken, is that we would all agree to establish conditions along the lines of what you as the neighbors have said would make it less offensive to you. I'm never going to say it'll make it palatable,
No, I mean-
but I think that's a fair position.
Did we talk about alcohol, or is alcohol not this venue?
Well, you have you have a police presence anytime alcohol is served, and under the ABC regulations, they can't serve alcohol outside of the facility that's licensed. They can only serve alcohol within the four corners of a licensed facility unless they specifically petition for an outdoor, they want to come every week
Well,
for a new selectmen's
and then
license.
there's at least, there's accountability.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I'm going to say the alcohol's outside of our jurisdiction. And I don't think, aside from the police presence condition, I don't think we need to include that condition. So as I go down this list of house rule conditions, and I don't mean to speak over anybody, interrupt me if you don't agree, but I'm trying to get to the end of the meeting. No parking on Beaverbrook Road for any reason. It's already in the planning board decision. I don't mind if we echo it in our decision.
Okay.
Okay? No amplified music outside. Again, it's already in the special permit from the planning board, but we should echo it. Oh, then we'll include that one.
It's in the house rules.
It's in our rules, not
But
in
their
the
house
planning.
rules isn't referenced in any decisions.
No, that's why we're gonna list that as a condition.
You may add that, no amplified outside music.
Outdoor music ceasing at 8 PM. Let's put that in our decision.
That's fine.
Police detail at all events where alcohol is served, I want in our conditions. Maximum number of people,
Excuse me, on number 4.
yep.
if there were to be a,
In excess of 50 people is fine.
thank you, let's cut some extra.
I think that's reasonable. That's my proposal. Anybody can shoot it down, but I think what he's saying is you might have a small cocktail reception, a painting party or something, yeah, yeah,
You want to have 2 six-packs of beer?
yeah.
Can we do weddings in excess of? I mean, because that's what
You
we're
should
worried
just
about.
said in excess of.
Well, I'm worried about the contra dancing.
Contra dancing is a non-alcohol event.
It
Okay,
doesn't always have to be, though, so let's
Hers
just,
does. She wants a non-alcohol event.
well, we're also talking about other people who might buy her facility from her. And the fact that these permits run with the land, even if we reference and try to give this permit to someone who only does holistic
Okay.
things, then let's, you know,
So what was
let's
the
go,
suggestion?
I said over 50, let's go over 60.
Okay.
All right?
With a stick.
Kinds of function, all the new things. So you would make a motion that you will